Hello. Hello, lovers. Okay, so it is 11:03, and I am still waiting on a few people that may or may not join me. It might just be me. This may be really quick, really simple, really short. I just wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about the kinds of things that we went over in our series that we just finished. For those that missed it, the playlist is on my Diva YouTube page. So in summary, it's something for where if you wanted to watch them all, you could, or you could just go and look at one particular one in terms of the topic. I'm just going to kind of go through the list and talk about a few of them. And if my other fellow tribe members are available, they'll hop in. So, and if you're watching this, definitely please give me a comment below so that I can see what you may want to ask or may want me to talk about, or if you have a question. I am trying to do this double screen thing. I'm a little ill prepared. You'll forgive me. Okay, so the first I Love Me series, I started on Sundays, and it was a couple months ago. Those of the people in my life, in my personal life, know some of the backstory behind the motivation to do that series. It all started with the first one, which was called Let's Talk About Sex. And technically, it really wasn't a discussion about sex. It was about the difference between sex and making love. The majority of people that have sex are people that don't know how to make love, or their impression or perception of relationships or intimacy are still in a place that aren't about love. With some of the spiritual healing and journey that I've taken in my life, I have learned to approach intimacy and approach relationships more from a place of genuine love, as opposed to something that's just physical gratification. So that was the first one. And then we also talked about the one called Shut the Fuck Up. It's about negative inner speech, and it's about being kind to ourselves with the thoughts that we have. That one is a really helpful one for me. What was really helpful for me to eliminate a lot of that inner negative self speech that made me want to hate on myself. A lot of what cured that and healed that was reminding myself that when I am speaking to myself that way, I am speaking to my inner child that way. And I don't know about you, not the majority of us are not the kind of people that would want to go around and abuse a child or yell at a child or cuss at a child. And so that has helped me change a lot of the way I speak to myself, is to remind myself to speak to me as if I were speaking to a child. And I'm much kinder in that when I think in those terms. Another one we talked about was called Go Hug Yourself. That one, if you get a chance to see it, I know like things are opening up right now, now that we're getting a little bit further along. Hopefully we'll continue to open up and get back to a life where we can hug our loved ones, see our loved ones, hang out with our loved ones, that kind of thing. The Go Hug Yourself one was about self-hugging and the implications of what that means when you're in isolation and you don't get to have that interaction or that intimacy with hugging people. And you can have intimacy with yourself. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but, if you know what I mean. So there's that, but that, that's only going to carry the needs so far. And being willing to acknowledge that intimacy and hugging and close contact and physical touch is a necessity was part of my journey, because there was a time where like it was safer to say, I don't need that. Not only do I not want it, I don't need it. Yeah, I've learned to be okay. I've learned to be okay and accepting of the fact that it is an actual need. Sorry, I'm moving my camera around too much. Okay, so another one, one of my favorites. If you're watching, please leave a comment below. One of my other ones that it was one of my favorites is called Awakening the Dragon. And it's probably the one that I got the most feedback and questions about and comments about, because it's like, what are you talking about, awakening the dragon? You know, because it you know, it's a metaphor. Okay, we're not talking about actual fantasy, real dragons, fire. It's a metaphor for awakening that part inside of us that we're letting, like, either not be inspire, or how do I did it better when that was the show, when that was the broadcast. Anyway, Awakening the Dragon is about spiritual awakening. It's also about creative awakening. It's about awakening that part of us to create, to utilize either spirituality or motivation or inspiration, muse, love, romance, even sex, if you whatever it could be, whatever that is that you have inside of you that will pull some creativity out of you, to light you up, to get you passionate, to get you excited. What is that? And that's what Awakening the Dragon is about. And one of the poems in my book that I'm finishing up is called Dragon Master. And that was one of the questions. People thought that Dragon Master, awakening the dragon, and matching a goddess, and I'm just paraphrasing some of the poem, that it's about sex. And you know, it really isn't. It really isn't. Awakening the Dragon and Dragon Master is about two individuals coming together in a compatible intimacy, a compatible spirituality, a compatible creativity, even, whether they're collaborative or, you know, inspiring each other. Another piece we did this series was called Death Can Wait. That is particularly one that I wrote last year. It was one that came from a time very brief where I was questioning mortality, my own like death and life, and I used to suffer from suicidal ideations, and I haven't gotten a chance to do some volunteer work with suicide prevention like I'd like to the last year or two, actually. And I'm hoping, God willing, to get more back into that. But sexual suicidal ideations is definitely something that a lot of us suffer from. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that was also part of what tied in all of these, leading into the series for May. There's a poem that goes with that one called Dead and Gone. And again, it particularly talks about what happens with our love when we die, and how when we die, our love doesn't die. Our love stays here. It stays with the people that are here, that are still here. You know, our physical bodies may not be here, but our love, our influence, the creativity, what we may have sang, wrote, whatever, that doesn't go anywhere. It stays right here. And the people that are left behind, our loved ones, we get to carry that to each other. We get to carry that to other people. We get to carry that forward. And so Dead and Gone and Death Can Wait, Create, which is a meditation, is about that. It's about, you know what? Yes, death happens. Death is going to come. It's going to park itself at our door, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pleasant, and it's going to be painful. It can be very painful, but it doesn't mean that life is over for me or for you. If you're hearing this, seeing this, if you are on this side of the dirt, your life is not over. And for me, and I'm going to try to keep this first person, the best service I could ever give to a loved one of mine that has passed, the best thing I can do to honor them is to stay carrying whatever gift they gave me, whatever they possessed, their beauty, their motivation, their inspiration, their whatever it may have been. The best way to honor that loved one is to give that to other people in some way, to try to do that for other people. So that was all in the first series. The second series, we talked about compersion and jealousy, and how compersion is, for me, oh my God, it is the way for me to dispel and eliminate jealousy from my relationships. And I'm not talking about just like sexual relationships, even if the relationship is friendship or someone I'm working with, and that the variations are endless. Compersion is definitely the thing, the one spiritual well, it's not really a spiritual principle. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I'll have to go look that up. I'll get to go correct myself after this. I do know for me that it takes away a lot of pain that jealousy can create. Boundaries was another one we talked about. Ironically, in the last series, we talked about self-hugging and loneliness and intimacy. And then of course, we're going back to hopefully a world where we can be amongst our people and hug and love and all that stuff. And I am definitely one of those people that needs to be really cautious about my physical boundaries and what I allow in terms of my space. I don't like to be touched, and I definitely don't like to be touched uninvited. Those are not good things for me. I'm not necessarily violent. I don't necessarily get angry, but I can definitely get really rude, really fast. And I have got, work to do there. However, that was another one we talked about. We talked about as we get back into this whole world where we get to see each other again. For me, talking about personal space and intimacy zones was a good one. It was good coverage. Last time I came on and was able to talk about the last one before the finale that I'm sitting here doing by myself, which is fine, was about consent and how asking for consent and giving a woman or a man that space to say no, and how that is actually sexy. Like, that is attractive. That's a very, very attractive quality, to not be aggressive and overbearing and assumptive. I am not a spring chicken. I am definitely not a newbie. I am a 51-year-old woman. I am a grown-up. I am as grown-up as they get. I mean, well, I know that there are people older than me. My godmother, older than me. However, I am definitely at a place in my life where I have some very, very, very factual truths about myself that are fact. And one of the challenges I still have today is navigating a world where the individuals I come across in terms of dating, particularly, they're overly crazy about sex in this aggressive modern way. And I don't know how to be polite about the way I say this, but it's just very it's very basic. It's very boring, if you ask me. Okay, like I grew up a long time ago, and a lot of those ways of behaving they're not that far away. They're not that far back. okay, in my history. It hasn't been that long, really, that I have had a different world in terms of my sexual behaviors and my thinking and my mindset when it comes to relationships. I'm actually fairly new at this journey, this phase of my journey, this spiritual part of it, where I allow God into the decision making, which leads me into tonight's topic. Tonight's topic, the finale of the I Love Me, Let's Talk About Sex series, is about propositions of the soul. So it came to me to name that and use that as the title because of what I just said about this journey that I've been on for years now, and all of these things that I talked about over these 8 weeks, I think it was. Proposition, the word proposition is a noun. It's a statement or assertion that expresses a judgment or opinion. The proposition that all men are created equal. That's an example of a proposition. Another definition of proposition is let me get this one here. A suggested program or plan of action, especially in a business context, like a detailed investment proposition. Okay, that's a little technical. Well, that sounds fun, right? So then I get, for anyone who's ever watched any of these or knows me, when it comes to definitions, I love the glossary. I'm like a Webster's junkie. So I love looking these up because the third definition I found for proposition is to make a suggestion of sex to someone. To make a suggestion of sex to someone with whom one is not sexually involved, especially in an unsubtle or offensive way. I found that so interesting. I found that so really, really cool and interesting that is the way the definition is worded. Now, who wrote that? What dictionary it was? I don't know. You can go Google it. But I read that and I'm like, that's exactly the point. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Last time we talked about consent, we talked about boundaries. We talked about a lot of these things and rightly so, considering that the majority of women and men, divas, that I hope to somehow remind today that they matter. Part of why I do this is for those of us that have been traumatized by someone in our past, even in our present. It could be yesterday. And it's a learning experience. So propositions of the soul, basically what that says for me is that I had to give my own soul a proposition. I proposed to my soul a little over 4 years ago to allow God into my decision making when it came to sex, to allow God into my decision making when it came to relationships, intimate with men or otherwise, in whatever way, shape, or form. And I had never really done that before. Like I kind of would say I did, or I kind of would try, but not really. I compartmentalized it and my behaviors or my actions. And, now mind you, I'm going to sound really contradictory, like flip contradictory, like on the complete opposite spectrum when I say the fact that as a sexually liberated woman with no apologies for what I choose to do as an adult with another consenting adult, that is still factual. That's 100% true. Fact. No apologies. However, for me, for my choices, for what I do with my soul, what I do in my journey, what I do with my body, that is a different scenario. That takes on a whole different world of propositions. What will I allow? What will I put up with? What will I try? What will I take? What will I do? Those are the kind of discussions and decisions and statements or propositions that I had to make, that I got to make with my soul, with my creator. And now that I've done that, and I've been doing that, and that's kind of to sum up this whole thing, because I want to sum it up. It's right at that 20-minute mark. To sum it all up, for me, these are propositions of my soul in a relationship and an agreement, and my relationship agreement today. First, the first one comes with my creator, with my God, with what I've chosen for my soul. It is very, very conflicting to what modern single men that are in the pool of dating, I would be willing to date based on age or other compatibilities or whatever. It's very different. The propositions of my soul, the agreements I have with God and my creator, are very different than the majority of the people that I've come across that are interested in dating or interested in pursuing dating or any of those things. Hence, I have been the single Diva Dori for a very long time. You know, men have come, men have gone, and I haven't had a relationship last longer than 2 weeks in a very, like, I can't even remember. Actually, I can, but it's really irrelevant, and I don't need to go into it. So basically, that has been the hardest thing. That has been the biggest challenge for me. And I am looking forward to some feedback. I'm looking forward to, you know, hearing from anyone who takes the time to watch this. If you get to this part of the video and you get to this part where I'm talking about my arrangements, my agreements, my promises, the things that I have proposed to my soul in regards to my sexual life, my intimate life, where it comes to love, relationships. If any of that is a challenge for you in this world we live in today, where there's this assumption that just because I have a grown-up 51-year-old sexually liberated personality, 100%. I get so confused. I don't get confused. Excuse me. I don't get confused. I get come at from people who are confused about who they're talking to, particularly if they are only someone who pays attention to my stand-up comedy. And I'm going to say it here, and I'm going to say it right here. 99.9% of my stand-up comedy is just, you know, whatever. It isn't even real. It's just funny. I find it funny. I find it amusing. And does it mean it's true? Probably not. Probably not. And if it is true, it's probably not current day life for me. It very much, a lot of it is based on a lot of relationships from the past. I'm 51, remember? By the way, I said that part. No spring chicken here. I've got decades of material. Okay, decades. I've been writing my comedy since 2006. I've been doing comedy. That's a really long time. So it just never ceases to amaze me, and it never ceases to amuse me that anyone would come to me and assume, just because of a joke, that I'm going to act a certain way for them, be a certain way for them, say yes to whatever they want in a certain way, just because of a stand-up joke. I'm sorry, fella. As the Amazon Beauty would say, keep coming back, bro. Okay, so I'm gonna I said I was gonna sum it up like 5 minutes ago, but I'm really going to sum it up. So for any of the lovers out there that get a chance to watch this, I love you. And as you know, I hope you know, you matter. And if you're on this side of the dirt, you know, be grateful. You know, be grateful, man. There's, oh man, everything, anything, all of what I could possibly have or get or need or want that is right here in my space. is pure perfection in the most divine way that God could have ever given it to me, because I'm alive and breathing. And I'm going to try not to cry. But not everybody is. So what helps me more than anything, stay in a chin up, heart open, head held high. What helps me more than anything is knowing I'm not dead. It's sad, but sometimes it's as simple as that. I love you. If you didn't hear it from someone today, I hope you heard that. I love you. Have a great night.